The evidence is compelling it was the comet.
Well, the evidence that you brought up when you were here the first time, when you showed the images of all those mammoths that had been literally knocked over with broken legs from the impact of something, mass burial grounds, like these mass, not burial grounds, obviously, but mass casualties.
Mortality sites.
Mortality sites, that's a good way of putting it.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, in fact, Graham and I visited one up in South Dakota called Hot Springs, where there's just several dozen, nobody knows how many are actually there, but there's at least several dozen two species, woolly mammoths and Columbian mammoths, that have been entombed. And while we were there, interestingly, the guide, the woman giving us the tour there, was kind of giving a gradualist explanation that, well, over long periods of time, these mammoths wandered into a sinkhole and were too dumb to get out, and so they became entombed. And I asked the question, well, what studies have been done on the sedimentary matrix in which their remains are being found? Because as I'm looking at this sedimentary matrix, I'm seeing a massive deposit. In other words, a deposit that was
instantaneous.
Instantaneous. And when I brought that up, she actually got very irritated and
really,
dismissed my question. Didn't well, we've got it all worked out. We know about that. Well, what is it? Well, we've got it all worked out, and then immediately went on with her narrative. But yet I had an article that was actually written by one of the original scientists that worked on the site, and his description was, well, it could have been that, but also as an alternative, and he used the term bloat and float, that what you had was woolly mammoths that had been caught in a flood, drowned, and their bloated carcasses floated into a depression in the landscape, and that's where they were entombed. And that makes a whole lot more sense to me than the fact that, individually over several thousand years, these mammoths wandered into this sinkhole and then couldn't get out. But you got to bear in mind, we're talking about, at the end of the last ice age, 120 roughly species of megafauna that disappeared, which is about equivalent to the same number of megafaunal species that inhabits the Earth today.
Well, it was a short period of time where something like 65% of the North American mammals went extinct?
75%.
75%.
Yeah.
Very short period of time, right?
Very short period of time. Pretty much totally coincident with that period called the Younger Dryas.
And so there's nothing resembling what we're capable of doing today back then.